Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact animation reaction and breakdown. Today we have Tsubaki in Thawing Snow. This was definitely the most upvoted recommendation from the last animation reaction I did. But I figured this one would be nice to go with. One, because it's a little shorter than usual and I'm a little bit tired tonight, but I still wanted to do one. I haven't done an animation breakdown in a little over a week now and I'm starting to get antsy. So I figured it would be a good one to go for. I do want to say that I am aware that this song does have a specific soundtrack piece to it that is apparently very popular. I only learned that from the comments on this upload, but I'm not going to be focusing on that. This is all about the animation today and about the quality of the animation, the techniques, and everything. So if the song is something you guys want to see a separate reaction on, I guarantee you I will not internalize the song this time around, so it'll be like the first time listening the next time we get to it, if that is the case. But I digress. Let's get right to the animation reaction part, shall we? Let's go.
The Kamisato clan's future.
Oh,
The duties
English.
of the Yashiro
I
Commission.
did not expect English.
My brother should not bear these burdens alone.
All right. Ooh, a lot of movement on this one.
This belief is what has led me to this duel.
Not quite as clean as some other ones, but you know what? This one was a while ago. Maybe a different team even. Still pretty well done.
When the Tsubaki is in season, I always have the same dream.
It's really hard to do those like big things like sword fighting with limited art styles
My
like
mother
this,
is with
so
me,
not a knock at all.
and I am at peace. Maybe somewhere deep down inside, the carefree days of family time have not ended for me.
Ooh, okay. Oh, all right. I always get excited when there's things we may be able to talk about.
But just as flowers wither, I too must awaken from my dream.
Ooh. Little things. I'm sorry, I'm noticing very like minute detail stuff, but that's kind of the name of the
Kamisato art
game, isn't it?
Tachijutsu, still like the morning dew, swift like lightning.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh, I take it back. Sorry, I'm ooh-eyeing a lot. I'm actually
Something
really
stirs
impressed
within
right
me,
now.
Perhaps the echo of a fond dream. But there it stays, day after day.
I'm getting excited. Oh, that's just pretty.
Pushing
I
me
saw
to
impact
overcome
frames.
and
Yes.
tempering my blade. That was the first time I bested brother in a duel. It was also the moment that the Shirasagi Himegimi
Bless you.
was born.
Sorry. The joke was right there. Don't be mad. This looks great, though.
It's showtime, Ayaka. The fireworks have started. Everyone's waiting for you. It was your wish to take over this side of things, if I recall.
Sorry, Ayato. We pray to our god. May all our dreams endure forever. Narukami Island. Let the festival begin.
I'm very impressed. There's actually quite a few things I want to talk about on this one, so without further ado, let's get over to that, shall we? So this first pass I'm going to talk about here is the first one where I was kind of iffy on how it looked. I thought the whole project was going to kind of look like this with how they were moving, but that quickly turned out to be incorrect. This shot, though, they were using a lot of motion blur, a lot of artificial trickery to make it look like they were moving faster and all that. And that's normally perfectly fine. It's just the fact that they were using it for these characters in a shot that is otherwise completely static. It made it really stand out and kind of looked a little clumpy, and I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. The art itself was fine, but the way that it was puppeteered to move around and some of the choices here, like the legs, being stretched out here and stopping, and it just felt very slidey and almost a little slimy if I had to find the proper adjective to use. In general, it wasn't really smooth in what I would call the right way, but again, when you're using 2D assets like this and purely moving them around in a limited format, that can quickly go from this looks great to about that. So I was a little off put and a little concerned about this first pass seeing these legs. I was like, oh no, is that how it's going to be? But again, quickly turned out to be incorrect, and they put a lot of love into some later shots. So this shot here is another one that I was kind of like, okay, it's getting a little bit better already. I shouldn't have judged it too soon. And this one specifically I like because they utilized this like wave distortion effect to show the power. And I like how it distorts the body of the girl and it makes her kind of just wipe away from the screen for a split second. And the motion blur, of course, that they were using on the prior shots, still using it here for the other movements. So there's this part here with this girl here and her arm moving from where it is. It kind of goes in this direction up a little bit and just pivots into place. But this is part of the limitation of using 2.5D and limited animation. You run out of frames to use and you can't just draw another one because a lot of the time you're just handed a pile of here you go, here's the shot, figure it out animator. And I've been there so many times, and not all the time are you allowed to or should try to draw in betweens or anything, especially in projects like this that are stylistically more limited. So you get things like this where the character has to suddenly pivot and there's no in between, and it's again a limitation of time and sometimes budget, but in this case it was probably more just we don't see a need to, and that's valid. It's a short trailer for a character. You don't need to put in all of that work. But as an animator, I'm always going to be like, man, I would have put one here. So this isn't so much of a criticism as it is just sharing my thoughts on this type of project, because I've done a bunch of ones very similar to this, where the budget is limited, the time is limited. You can't be spending enough time on these shots to be able to draw a whole new arm or a whole new leg, blah, blah, blah. And you just have to work with what you've got. And that's very much the case here. I think they did a very good job with pivots like this. This isn't bad at all, but it is noticeable to people with eyes like mine. It's kind of jarring at times. And those limitations are exactly why they're using such generous motion blur on everything to kind of mask those slides, and is also why they're probably distorting the limbs a little bit, maybe using puppet tools to kind of bend them into shape and kind of cheat those frames just a little bit to make them connect better, because sometimes that's all you're given and that's all you can do. So for this shot, I'm not here to talk about the characters. I actually really like that they decided to stylistically go for that storybook aesthetic and just use stills that fade between each other. I think that works very well for these sort of sentimental flashback moments. I wanted to talk about these petals, these leaves floating around the sky. For the moment I was watching this initially, I thought it might just be a standard particle emanating from everywhere, like just kind of you set a point in a direction and it just throws out an emittance of particles shaped in leaf form. You can kind of just set an image file as the particle and just make it appear in a bunch of varied sizes and shapes everywhere on screen. And I thought that's what was happening, is that they just composited that in until this wind kicks in here. Some of these petals actually like flick around and float as the camera starts to ramp into that transition. But it was a very good choice, and it's something that while I've seen it done quite a few times, little minute details make the entire product seem so much more important and grandiose, and little changes like that, like affecting the wind in what I know now is probably a CG particle pass. I've never personally used one in 2D that allows for physics like that, but I know that they exist. Point being, it was a very good decision, and I really do like that they put in that extra energy to the scene to carry everything into the next shot. And just a quick aside, this is why I'm pretty sure it's CG, because these leaves up here in the forefront, especially that biggest one, is definitely not just 2D. So I think that they used CG and used a proper particle emitter in CG to do this. If not, I want to know what they used, but I'll leave that up to somebody who may know better than me. All right, so this one I'm going to just kind of be talking while I'm flicking through here frame by frame. But on this pedal, while it's going through, you can see a very obvious if you're looking, but subtle if you're not, chromatic aberration where it has that separation of the red, blue, and green color paths of the shot. And you can see it kind of, especially in this frame here, emitting around that pedal. It's just kind of a field around the pedal. I think that addition makes it feel a little bit more ethereal, a little bit more dreamlike. It makes it feel like it's standing out from the rest of the shot in more than just being a different color. And it really does assist the shot and assist your eyes in following it. It's a really clever idea. I don't think I've ever seen something that has actually used chromatic aberration as a sort of tail on a moving object like this in a similar way. I usually see it in stuff that's more of like a general glitch effect, but like I said, coming from what was kind of like a pseudo flashback process before this, where we had similar glitch transitions in the shot before this pedal came out, it's kind of tying into that, and I think that's very clever. So I mostly wanted to focus on the cut that's coming up in this sequence, not this specific shot here. But I wanted to start here because I think it's a very good use of directional motion blur. How she moves forward here and this right here specifically really plays through. I mean, you can literally see and trace the direction she's going. That's extremely clear. The hair is going that way, the arms bending that way. You can see where she's going. Everything, of course, is blurred in that direction. But the fact that the arm is curved and blurred in the direction she's actually moving shows more importance on that motion and really is the king of this process, using motion blur in order to hide these little inconsistencies in the art that they have available. So things like that are really cool, but I want to get on to the next part of this shot real quick. So I really wanted to focus on this one, and this is my favorite shot because they gave the animators time on this one. You can see that each of the little flicks of hair in her ponytail are done basically frame by frame, and they're using motion blur to kind of keep that style together, but all in all, there's a lot more frames happening here. You can see the variance in her lines in the hair, the way that her hair is pulled back, especially right here. You can see that line kind of dancing around a little bit more than you would with just something that is drawn once and slightly skewed and squished a little bit to make it look like it's moving. I think that they legitimately gave somebody the time to do a full sequence here, and it just looks that way purely because it is from a distance and you can only put in so much detail from a distance without making it look weird. There's a whole rule set of like how much detail to take away as the camera gets farther away from characters. It's something that animation has done forever, and it's something you'll start to notice more now if you haven't noticed it yet that I've mentioned it. You will never be able to unsee it. This type of thing is super utilized in basically everything, but if you want a specific group of things to watch, the Spider-Verse movie series is a great one. They utilize this a lot, as well as some other trickery to make distance work really well. I recommend looking up the behind the scenes on stuff like that because the process of the animation on those movies is immaculate, but it really does showcase especially stuff like this with lack of detail in the bodies and designs as the camera gets farther away in order to keep things clear enough for the eyes without overdoing the busyness on screen. So I actually didn't recognize this on the way through, but as I was clicking through and appreciating some of these beautiful smear frames on these wooden swords, they used the chromatic aberration distortion blossom that I was talking about earlier that was on that pedal and was kind of a part of this whole sequence of them fighting from the start, of using chromatic aberration and distortion, but I didn't know that they used it on this hit. I completely missed it the first time through. So it just goes to show that even if you've seen something once and you're going back through it, you can always find something new that maybe your eyes didn't catch last time, because I definitely didn't catch that, and I kind of wish I did. There's not really anything to talk about animation-wise on this specific shot, but it is so well rendered. the edge lighting, all of the shading. It's just such a beautiful render for a project like this. It fits in the style and definitely brings that visual aesthetic up to another level without overwhelming the visual style of the project as a whole. And that is a really hard balance to get, and I'm really glad that they did, because God, this is a beautiful little shot here. I'm mostly here to be talking about the impact frames, but I did want to showcase the fun little effects that they added onto this shot of the sword in the hand. There's some really interesting like edge glow effects happening around these fingers. They kind of track from here and work their way down the hand. And I feel like for that, they're probably using some sort of an effect similar, if not exactly, to find edges. And that's literally the name of the effect, is find edges. And if you find those edges by using that effect, it basically just highlights the outlines of whatever you're selecting and allows you to manipulate them in various ways. You can change colors, add distortions to them. Specific little things like this gradient and glow could be used that exact way. They could just be using something as simple as an inner glow, like a drop shadow glow inside the hand. There's a few ways that you can get this sort of effect, but I'm not entirely sure what they did exactly. I'm never fully sure because I'm not in the room where it happened. But there's also like this wave distortion coming out of the sword. It's a great way to track the energy as it's going up the sword. Of course, you get this couple of frames here of this solid line working its way up, but then you also get this distortion on the sword, this like wave distortion that's both aggressive on the very, very edges. You get this like really sharp stuff that's happening, especially on the bottom here. You could really see it on the blade side. But then there's also this like larger wave of the same effect happening in a more broad span through the center of the blade. I think that's really cool. The layering of effects that they're doing here, and just to give it a little bit more energy and show the direction of where this energy is going to the tip of the blade, is very well done. I really like it. I love impact frames. I talk about them every time they appear. They're such a good aesthetic. I think that they're beautiful in every way, and the way that they're handled is always so unique. So like in this one, you can see that it outlines where the blade was, and then it blossoms out from there and goes mostly white to show the curve of the blade, like right here, and you see which direction the blade is going. This shortcutting of black to white here is just a way to make it feel a little bit more energized. It's kind of like a lightning strike, and you can still see the direction of the blade. And then this full drawing of the character's silhouette, again, just kind of finding the edges, making those stand out. These are gorgeous, even to the point of having this detail of this little ribbon on her head. They usually would just omit stuff like that, but the fact that somebody drew it like this is super beautiful. This is a very detailed, very beautiful impact frame. I really like this one. I would frame this and put it up on the wall. But there's always more impact frame. I really did like this one, but I do like the direction that this goes. It shows the distance. You can see things like the eyes getting less detail. There's not nearly as much fidelity in the overall like shapes that are being made here. It's just shaping out the face rather than making more details. Like even this has lost a little bit of detail. Again, kind of calling back to that whole, as you get farther away, there's less detail, even more aggressively so when everything is a bright color in an impact frame like this. This is absolutely sick. I love that they started putting in the purple that starts to show up in the next couple of frames, just really tying that all back in, from going from just black and white to throwing a little pop of color in to make sure that your brain knows ahead of time where the visuals are going. These are why I love impact frames. The sheer artistry that goes into them is immaculate. And projects like this that really put that much effort into all of these frames just for an impact, mwah, delicious. Absolutely the highest of my praises for the people who did this. So of course we got more impact frames coming up in the next few frames here, and while they're not quite as plentiful and artistically whole as the ones from the prior shot, they're still doing their job beautifully well. It's a quick shot from here to here, just an inverted color pass. That's sometimes all you need. And this is more of a different style of impact frame. This is kind of a what I would call post-production impact frame where they have the shot done and they need to make an impact frame where they take the original art, basically strip out all color, do a find edges trick is probably something similar to what they've done here, masked it out, made one of the masks white, the other black, and just motion blurred it to ever loving hell. And that's perfectly fine. It does serve its purpose, and they flipped it here just on a quick inversion. You get these little ones here of the sword kind of flying away, albeit it's not entirely clear until you're about right here. But this all plays into it. You know exactly that this in motion is the sword. It might not feel like it, but you kind of catch on to it. And that's the point of a well-crafted, fast-paced shot. And impact frames can really play into that and make it a strength. I did not think I would be talking about this video this much. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I did not think I would be talking about it this much. There were a few things from that final festival scene that I'm like, maybe I could talk about these, but a lot of it was stuff I've mostly covered in prior videos from Genshin before, so I figured if you wanted to learn about that sort of thing, best to just go back and watch those when I was spending more time on it anyway, and not just retread the same ground. This was beautiful. Like I said, I didn't listen to the music, so if you want me to listen to this song that comes with this video on its own, as its own video, let me know. But I think that's pretty much it for this video in the grand scheme. If you want to see more from these Genshin animation reactions, by all means, leave the next one I should get to in the comments below. If you want to see more videos from me and support me and do all that, you know how to do that. And I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!